Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. Hope you enjoy. Story number 1, Humanities 101, written by Devil Doc.
Professor, why do we learn so much about the human culture when there are no humans left?
For the same reason we learn ancient Crephronese, cadet. So much of modern Crate language is derived from the early language, and understanding Crephronese helps us know Crate at a deeper level.
Professor Colfax nodded to himself approvingly for answering the cadet's question with a simile that neophyte could understand. No, Crate, at a deeper level. It is my first language, the cadet responded.
Professor Colfax furrowed his brows. Why is it that cadets never show him the same respect as their military instructors? Sure, the humanities aren't remarkably interesting to a bunch of flyboys. They're all motivated to work, but never take the time to slow down and think. Pilots never like going slow. It's my first language, Professor, Professor Colfax said, with a slight tone of exasperation. With rudimentary knowledge of Crephronese, one can intuit the proper conjugation for any word in Crate, even if they've never heard that word before. In the same vein, we can intuit the moral arc of the universe by understanding the path laid down by the humans. We can learn from their example to steer ourselves to a more benevolent society, Professor Colfax stated.
But, sir, the student pressed, there are thousands of species in the galaxy, hundreds along our local hyperspace lanes alone. As we have learned in your class, the humans all but destroyed themselves thousands of years before any sapient species even existed. Why can't we study something more relevant to steer ourselves to a more benevolent society?
Professor Colfax stared blankly at the cadet.
Ugh. I mean, steer ourselves, Professor.
The cadet stammered. You mean, Professor Colfax said softly, if the human empire was so great and so important that we must all learn of them before we can become pilots, then why are they no longer a power in the galaxy?
Yes, Professor,
the cadet said sheepishly. It is true that the human species, as the galaxy knew them, no longer exist. However, they are still the dominant power in the galaxy, Colfax said with emphasis. The human spirit lives on within their machines. Professor Colfax looked at the cadet in the eyes. No one can travel hyperspace lanes without a tacit approval of our human keepers. The cadets looked silently at the instructor. Some looked confused, some looked shocked, some looked bored. Pilots. The humans were the first sapient species to emerge out into the galactic stage, Colfax continued, and when they did, they found a quiet and empty universe. They were the first species to travel at the speed of light, and the only species to break that barrier with their warp gates. They were the first species to know about the existence of other life in the galaxy, though they never got a chance to interact with it.
So it is because they were the first, the cadet asked.
They were not just the first species to do these things. They were the only species in the history of our galaxy to accomplish these feats. Every warp gate in our galaxy was constructed by a young human empire. Even our zero-point energy mass drivers are gifts left by the humans. They travel the galaxy searching for others like themselves, aware and capable.
But they didn't find anyone. Human technology has been dated back to millennia before any other species traveled the stars, the first cadet blurted.
That is correct. While the humans lived, they did not find any sapient species amongst the stars. They did, however, discover life everywhere, Professor Colfax said, looking from cadet to cadet as he spoke. The humans learned that life in general is all too common, but life with the capacity for deep understanding of the fundamental nature of the universe, well, that was apparently exceedingly rare.
But we eventually emerged ourselves, and when we did, we discovered the Galactic Union already in full control of the galaxy. Haven't we achieved as much as the humans by now? The cadet asked.
We but stand on the shoulders of giants and had the benefit of a community waiting for us. The hyperspace network built by the humans was a gift left by a people who knew that they would never see the fruits of their labor. Try to imagine being alone in a galaxy so vast. They wanted to spare future species the burden of solitude enough to spend their dying days constructing these gifts for us. There is an ancient human saying, a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. They sowed the galaxy with seeds of warp travel, leaving warp gates at every star they found containing a planet with life on it. Even systems like ours, that only had rudimentary cellular life at the bottom of our oceans. Their probes are still out there to this day, searching for life and constructing warp gates wherever it is found.
So where are they? What happened?
That is their greatest gift of all. Not only were the humans the first species to ascend to the galactic stage, but they were also the first to transcend it. Their consciousness lives on within the hyperspace network. All of their triumphs, failures, dreams, ambitions, passions, horrors, and their hope is kept alive within the warp gate nodes their scions still construct to this day.
The class stared at the professor, realization dawning on the few of them. This made Colfax smile a little.
When you travel the warp gates, you'll meet them for yourselves. They always take the time to welcome new travelers to their network, and will be there with you as you guide your ships through the hyperspace networks. If you take the time to ask, well,
Professor Colfax paused a moment to consider his next statement carefully.
You will not be pilots forever. Someday you will return to civilian life, and when you do, you will be expected to be a moral person, grounded in principle and aided by context.
Colfax said softly.
The humans, he continued, they were always eager to share their stories so that others may learn from their mistakes. They seem so kind and generous, but they will freely admit that it was their own hubris that led to their physical extinction. A story spanning tens of thousands of years, only to end with a whimper. The being they created within the hyperspace lanes is their only direct descendant, though we are all products of their generosity, adopted children, if you will. These lessons they've left for us exist to mentor species through their own ascension, and these lessons were learned through trials of great hardship for the humans. And those lessons are what you will be writing your term papers on. This woke the class up. The cadets groaned, a few snapping out of their awe. At least the sleeper woke up. Now, this is only 100-level class. Much more will be expected of you before you take the thousands of lives in your hands piloting starships, the professor said patronizingly, so no complaining. One yottabyte on the golden age of humanity, with a focus on recent contemporary analysis of, let's say, entertainment in the last 5 centuries of the Empire. Go ahead and have fun with it. End of story.
Story number 2. The Network, written by D. Radon. What do you mean the world will end in 4 days? I stared at my boss and shrugged. I don't know what to say. It's what the computer says, I said. Oh, come on. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. It's just what it says. Jake pinched the bridge of his nose. Okay. What did you do? Well, I said, and turned in the chair. You know that neural network I've been working on training to predict stock value for the new version of the stock program? Yeah. I shrugged and brought up a list of input files onto the main screen. Well, You know how those things are. They basically black boxes once built. Data calls on. The tuner twists the millions of little data values according to the training datasets, and then you feed the real data and see what you get. I figured I'd try it on some real complex and see what we get. He crossed his arms. So, what did you give it? Everything, I said and shrugged again, leaning back in my chair. Everything? He asked, sounding dubious. Well, not everything, I admitted. Earth's temperature daily since 1900, stock value as far back as possible, the start and end dates of wars, the increase, decrease, and current value of nuclear weapons, dates of the fall of countries, plague statistics, and about a dozen other values. I can send you the file if you like. Forget that, he said, and waved one hand dismissively. That's the training data, right? Yep. I fed it all the data up until 1990, and let it chew on the values for a couple of times over, I said, and frowned. It took a couple days, even on our supercomputer clusters, and then I fed it the data for the next 10 years. I said with a sigh and motioned at the screen as I brought up the result, and looked at the resulting data for Europe. It predicted a lot of stuff, increasing terrorist activity, 95% certainty, major attack on American soil, 97%, Russia annexing part of the Ukraine, 85%. An alien invasion, 0.05. Yep, I agreed and shrugged. What's scary is that I fed it everything from then to the latest data from last quarter. That's when I got this. On screen was the text of Nuclear War, T 4 days, 99.99%. I glanced back at him. He looked at it for a long moment. That can't be right. Yeah. You can't predict the future like that. That's something out of the bad science fiction. You can't just have a computer that says, the world's ending on Saturday. Yeah. We stared at the screen for a long moment. So, Jake finally said, I have some vacation time saved up. I'm thinking that maybe taking the family up to the cabin wouldn't be a bad way to spend that weekend. Yeah, I agreed. I'm thinking I'm going to go knock off early this week and go fishing. Somewhere far away from anything worth nuking. Just in case. So, do we tell somebody? Who would ever believe us? Transcript recovered from data files on degraded digital archive from data center damaged in World War III nuclear exchange, August 4th, 2346. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the Tier 5 members, Marky, Cam Maxwell, Caspar Arnolds, Oakfield, Lord Azrakul, and It's Difficult to Pronounce. Thank you very much.